You know, it's strange how a moment can split a life into before and after. For me, it happened on a quiet Sunday morning, sunlight sliding through the blinds in thin, tired lines, dust floating like tiny ghosts in the air. I was standing by the kitchen counter in Jonah's house, my son, holding a warm bowl of oatmeal because Paige said the smell of my strong coffee made her nauseous lately. My hands tremble a little these days, not from weakness. Just age, I suppose. Age has a rhythm of its own. And that was the moment, right there, in the soft hush of their perfect silent kitchen, when I heard it. Paige's voice, low, careful, but clear enough to slice through the air like a cold wind. Jonah, your mother can't stay here much longer. She embarrasses me. I didn't drop the bowl, but it felt like something inside me slipped. A little plate in my chest, cracking clean in two. Jonah whispered something back, too soft for me to catch. His voice always shrinks when he's choosing someone else's comfort over mine. I stood there, oatmeal cooling in my hands, pretending to study a smudge on the counter. As if my heart hadn't just stuttered, Paige continued, her shaking hands, the old stories, the way she moves so slowly. Lucas's fundraiser is next week. People will be here. I don't want her wandering around. Her, not Mom, just her. Sometimes silence hurts more than words. If you've ever felt that kind of quiet ache, comment true, so I know I'm not the only one carrying it. I breathed in, steady, quiet, the way you do when you're trying not to make a sound. Jonah finally said, "All right, I'll talk to her." His voice, my boy's voice, agreeing. I looked down at the oatmeal. A simple bowl, nothing special, and for a moment it blurred. My eyes aren't what they were, but this blur. It wasn't age. I placed the bowl on the table before my hands betrayed me any further. When they walked into the kitchen, their voices suddenly bright, pretending they hadn't been discussing where to place me like a piece of old furniture. Jonah gave me that half smile he used as a child when he'd broken something and hoped I wouldn't see. "Mom." "Hey," he said. "You all right?" I nodded. The way you nod when the truth is a stone too heavy to lift. Paige hovered behind him, arms folded neatly, eyes scanning me the way people glance at thrift store shelves, checking for cracks. "I made you oatmeal," I said softly. I wasn't sure how sweet you like it." Paige just murmured, "Thanks," as if politeness cost her something precious. And my thoughts whispered inside me, the thoughts I never said aloud. When did I become a burden? When did my presence turn into something to hide? I moved toward the living room, each step slow but steady. My knees protested, but they've learned to hold pain with dignity. On the mantel sat a photograph. Jonah at 10, grinning beside a crooked birthday cake I baked after working a double shift. His hair messy, my apron dusted in flour. There was love in that picture. Messy, loud, imperfect love. But houses change. People change. Even love changes. Or maybe the people holding it do. As I reached for the photo, my fingers brushed the cold frame. And behind me, I heard Paige sigh. Not the tired sigh of a woman, but the impatient sigh of someone watching a clock. "Jonah," she whispered, "this is what I mean." It wasn't the words. It was the way her voice wrapped around them. Thin, sharp, ashamed. I set the photo back, hands steady now, strangely steady. I turned to them, offering a small smile. "I'll stay out of the way during the fundraiser," I said. "Don't worry." Paige didn't deny it, didn't even soften. Jonah looked at the floor. "Have you ever felt unwanted in your own family? Just Tell me where you're watching from, so I know I'm not alone in this world. I was gathering my sweater, the old blue one Nora Bennett knitted for me years ago, when Jonah's phone buzzed. He checked it, and everything about him shifted. His eyes widened, his posture straightened, his voice lifted like someone had finally said his name with pride. "It's the mayor," he said. "Mayor Lucas Grant." Paige stepped closer. "What does he want?" Jonah looked at me. No, he looked through the house, toward me, as if suddenly remembering a piece of the past that mattered. "He wants Mom," he said softly. "Mayor Grant asked for my mother, by name. And oh, the way Paige's face froze, the way the room tightened, the way my heart, bruised but still breathing, steadied itself. Why would a mayor be calling for an old woman like me? Why? Now. I didn't ask out loud, but inside my thoughts whispered, maybe age isn't something to be hidden. Maybe someone remembers something Jonah and Paige have forgotten. I held my sweater close, the yarn soft against my palms, and for the first time that morning, I felt a small flame flicker back to life in my chest, a quiet strength, a memory stirring, something long buried, coming up for air, and that, right there, was the moment everything began to change. Because Mayor Lucas Grant didn't just ask for me, he asked for me, for a reason Jonah never imagined, and you'll understand why that call shook this family more than any insult ever could. I didn't answer Jonah right away, not because I didn't hear him, but because that single sentence, Mayor Lucas Grant asked for my mother by name, opened a door I had kept locked for almost 40 years. I sat down slowly on the edge of their leather couch, that cold, expensive thing that never quite fit my old bones, and let my fingers rest on my knees. They were trembling just a little, not from fear, but from memory. You see, before my hair turned silver and my hands began to shake, I wasn't just Rosa Jean Whitford, Jonah's aging mother. I had a life. A loud, breathless, messy life made of long nights, aching feet, and dreams I folded away so my boy could have something better. Most people in town have forgotten that. Jonah never really knew, but Lucas Grant, he was there, back when he was just little Luke, running around the community center with a backpack 2 sizes too big for him, and back when I was the woman who kept the center running. Sweeping floors, organizing food drives, tutoring children till my voice went hoarse, and holding town meetings together with nothing but strong coffee and stubborn hope. Those years feel like old film reels in my mind, flickering, warm, a little fragile around the edges. I remember one night in particular, a storm had rolled in, the kind that makes windows shake, the kind that feels like the sky is grieving. The power went out, and only the emergency lights glowed, thin strips of gold along the hallway. I found Lucas, maybe 12 years old at the time, sitting cross-legged by the door with a stack of homework he didn't understand. "Can you help?" His voice had wavered in that honest little boy way. I sat with him on that cold floor for 2 hours, teaching him fractions by drawing circles on scrap paper. He had this way of squinting when he concentrated, like he was trying to see the future hidden inside numbers. When he finally understood, he whispered, "Thank you, Miss Rosa. I wouldn't know who else to ask." I smiled, but inside I had thought, maybe no one teaches mamas how to ask for help. Maybe that's why we learn to hold whole worlds by ourselves. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if Jonah ever realized how many worlds I held up for him. If you've ever given everything to your family and still felt invisible, write your name in the comments, just so I know you exist. In Jonah's living room now, Decades later, Paige was staring at me with this expression, half confusion, half suspicion, as if she was trying to solve a puzzle she didn't like the shape of. "Why would the mayor want you?" she asked, voice soft but stripped of kindness. I didn't answer, because honestly, I wasn't sure. Maybe it was about the old community center. Maybe something had happened. Maybe they needed records or someone who remembered the early years. Or maybe a quieter voice inside me wondered. Maybe someone finally remembered the things I had done long before wrinkles settled around my eyes. Jonah paced a little, rubbing the back of his neck. "Mom, did you know Mayor Grant? I mean, know him?" I almost laughed, not out loud, just a small broken sound that stayed inside my chest. Of course I knew him. I knew half this town back when they were children, who believed the world still had a place for them. But Jonah had never cared to ask about those years. His world didn't have space for the parts of me that existed before he did. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could, the scent of lavender drifted in, the door opening, and there she was, Nora Bennett, my neighbor, my old friend, one of the few souls who still saw me, truly saw me, even now. She stepped inside the doorway with a basket of fresh bread, cheeks rosy from the wind. "I knocked," she said gently. No one heard. She looked at me, then at Jonah and Paige, and something in her eyes softened in that knowing way older women share, as if she could sense the heaviness hanging in the room. "Everything all right?" she asked quietly. Paige smiled that polite, sharp smile of hers. "We're fine, Nora. Just family things." Nora glanced at me again. My hands, the tension in my shoulders. She didn't push. She never pushed. But she stayed by the doorway as though she wasn't ready to leave me just yet. There's a reason I trust that woman. Kindness leaves fingerprints, even in the smallest gestures. Sometimes the ones we love most are the ones who break us. If you understand that pain, just comment, "True." As Jonah stepped into the hallway to call the mayor back, I found myself drifting to the same photograph on the mantel. Jonah at 10, that crooked cake, my smile that looked too tired for someone only in her 30s. I remembered the night that picture was taken. Jonah was sick, Paige hadn't entered his life yet, and I had worked a double shift at the center. I came home late, eyes stinging from exhaustion, but I still baked that ridiculous lopsided cake because he had whispered, "Mom, can you make one? Just for us." Back then, he thought I could do anything. Now, he was embarrassed to let me hold a bowl of oatmeal. I touched the corner of the photo, my hand hovering, when something else caught my eye. A folder. Thin. Grey. Tucked halfway behind a stack of mail and an envelope with the town seal. I shouldn't have pulled it out. I knew that. But something, a tug deep in my chest, made me slide it free. Inside was a printed email. Just one line stood out. "Regarding the upcoming property evaluations, especially the Mercer residence, we need Rosa Jean Whitford's signature to proceed." My breath thinned. My fingers tightened around the paper. Property evaluations. My signature. Why? Behind me, I heard Jonah's footsteps rushing back, and the way his voice caught when he saw what I was holding. "Mom, where did you get that?" His face went pale. Paige stepped in front of him as if shielding him from his own mother, and Nora, dear Nora, exhaled a slow, worried breath, her eyes narrowing just slightly. Something was wrong, very wrong, and suddenly a question bloomed inside my chest, cold and heavy. What exactly did Jonah and Paige want my signature for? And why hadn't they told me the truth? The answer. Well, child. The living room felt smaller that evening, almost shrinking around the four of us. A soft grey dusk pressed against the windows, and the only sound was the slow, uneven ticking of the wall clock. Jonah stood near the doorway, shoulders tight. Paige hovered beside him, arms folded. Nora sat quietly on the far end of the couch, her hands resting on her lap, watching everything with those steady eyes of hers. I was in the center of the room, that thin grey folder on the coffee table in front of me. My fingers rested on it lightly, as if it might burn. "Mom, you shouldn't have opened that," Jonah said. His voice trembled a little, the way it did when he was a boy caught lying. I looked up at him slowly. "Then you should have handed it to me yourself, Jonah." Paige sucked in a breath. "It wasn't the right time." I turned my head toward her. "And when exactly would the right time have been?" "After the papers were signed. After I had no home left to my name." Their eyes dropped. Silence pressed between us, thick as fog. Jonah finally exhaled. "It's complicated." "No," I whispered. "Complicated is life. This is something else." I opened the folder. The pages fluttered softly. Property evaluations, formal requests, lines about transferring ownership. And there, in black ink, a clause I hadn't seen in decades. My signature, required for releasing rights to the Whitford house. My house. The one I built after my husband died. The one Jonah grew up in. The one I kept even when I could barely afford the heating bill some winters. Nora leaned forward just slightly, her breath catching. "Rosa, they didn't tell you." Paige swallowed. "We were waiting for the mayor's approval. There's development coming to the neighborhood. Good money. We thought." I raised my hand gently. "Don't tell me what you thought. Tell me what you planned." The clock ticked once, twice, louder than it should have. Jonah's voice cracked. "We were going to sell the house, Mom. Use the money to pay for a bigger place. It would help us. And we'd take care of you. Take care of me." Those words, spoken so softly, hit me harder than anything else. "You mean," I said quietly, "I would have no say in what happens to the home I gave my life to, and in return, I could sleep in a guest room, under someone's pity?" Paige straightened. "It wouldn't be pity, it's practical. You're older now, Rosa. You need support." Her words were steady, but her eyes were cold. Nora let out a soft, broken sound. "Paige, she's not furniture you can move around." The room froze. Jonah stepped toward me. "Mom, it's not like that. You know we love you." "Do you?" My voice shook, but it didn't rise. Love listens. Love asks. Love doesn't hide papers behind mail and hope an old woman won't notice. The truth hung in the air, trembling. I could feel tears threatening, but I held them back. Not because I wanted to be strong, but because I had spent too many years crying alone in rooms just like this one. If you've ever spoken the truth and still been blamed, write your age in the comments. Maybe we can find each other in the silence. Jonah sank onto the armchair, burying his face in his hands. Paige looked away, jaw tight, as though my words were inconveniences, not wounds she helped carve. I took a slow breath. "Tell me the truth, Jonah. Why did the mayor ask for me?" His head lifted, eyes rimmed red. "Because he needs the last original trustee of the old community center to approve some renovations. And because he remembered you." Nora's eyebrows lifted gently. "Trustee? Rosa, you never told me that." I gave a soft, tired smile. It didn't feel important anymore. Paige stepped forward suddenly, voice sharpening though she tried to mask it. "So the mayor needs her signature for the center, and for the property too." That's good. We can finish all of this at once. Nora inhaled sharply, almost a gasp. Paige. But Paige kept going. This is the perfect opportunity. She's already involved. We can have the lawyer draw up the new deed. I'm still in the room, I said quietly. My hands were trembling now, not from age, but from the weight of betrayal settling into my bones. Paige, I whispered, when did you start seeing me as a step on your ladder instead of family? For the first time, her confidence cracked. Her eyes darted toward Jonah, seeking backup. He stayed silent, and that silence, that was the deepest cut. If family has ever hurt you more by what they didn't say. Comment, true. I'll know your heart understands mine. I pulled a second sheet from the folder, a letter I hadn't noticed earlier, folded neatly, my name written in blue ink. Jonah froze. Mom, don't. I opened it. The handwriting was elegant, familiar, older. It was from Mayor Lucas Grant himself. Rosa, we cannot proceed with redevelopment on your street without your explicit consent. I'm reaching out personally because I know what your home meant, not just to you, but to the entire neighborhood. Some people may not be telling you the full truth. My breath left me completely. Nora covered her mouth, eyes wide. Paige stepped backward, as if the letter had slapped her. Jonah whispered, Mom, it's not what it looks like. But we all knew it was exactly what it looked like. I folded the letter gently, smoothing the creases with my fingertips. The room was silent, except for a low, trembling piano from the TV in the next room, almost as if the house itself understood the moment. Finally, I looked up, meeting Jonah's eyes. Tomorrow, I said softly, I will meet Mayor Lucas Grant myself. And whatever decision I make, it will be mine alone. Paige's face drained of color. Jonah's lips parted. Mom, please. I stood, slowly, aching, but with a spine straighter than it had been in years. You almost sold my memories, I whispered, but you will not sell my dignity. The clock ticked once more, and just before anyone could speak, Nora stepped to my side, laying a warm hand on my arm. You won't go alone, she said. A soft breath left me, half relief, half gratitude. But just as we turned toward the door, another envelope slipped out from the folder, one I hadn't seen, labeled with Jonah's name, from the attorney's office, stamped urgent, confidential. My heart dropped. I looked at Jonah. He went pale, almost green, whispering only one trembling word. Mum, don't open that. Why? What secret was inside? What could my own son fear me seeing? That answer will break this story wide open very soon. The room had gone so still, it felt like the air was holding its breath. A low hum from the ceiling light was the only sound as everyone stared at me. Rosa Jean Whitford, sitting alone at the end of the polished conference table in Attorney Keller's office. Jonah and Paige sat across from me, their faces pale, their shoulders stiff. Mayor Lucas Grant stood near the window, hands folded, watching quietly. Nora Bennett hovered near my chair, offering the kind of silent support only true friends know how to give. Attorney Keller slid the folder into the center of the table. We're here to finalize the transfer, he said softly. But before we continue, Mrs. Whitford has something to present. My fingers trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what was about to be spoken into the light. Jonah cleared his throat. Mom, we've already discussed this. The house is too much for you. It makes sense for us to take ownership. Paige nodded quickly. We're only doing what's practical. Their voices tried sounding calm, but the cracks showed. I opened the old, worn envelope. The same one my late husband, Charles, had given me years ago. Practical, I whispered. Is that what we're calling it now? Paige straightened. Rosa, we're trying to help. Mayor Lucas shifted slightly, his gaze sharper. He'd already sensed something was wrong long before today. He was the one who told me to bring everything. Attorney Keller leaned forward. Mrs. Whitford, whenever you're ready. I unfolded the letter slowly, smoothing the edges. This is Charles's last request. The part we never told anyone about, because he wanted it shared only when necessary. Paige's eyes widened. Wait, what letter? Jonah muttered. Mom, what is this? I began reading, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. This home stays with Rosa until the end of her life. No pressure, no demands, no transfer unless she chooses it freely. And if anyone tries to force her, then everything goes to the Whitford Community Fund. Paige gasped. Jonah froze. Attorney Keller pulled out a second document. And here is the legal version, signed and notarized. It's a conditional clause. Silence. Heavy, suffocating. Paige whispered, That's impossible. You never mentioned. You never asked, I said softly. Nora reached over and squeezed my hand under the table. The mayor spoke then, voice calm but firm. I knew Charles. He always protected his community and his wife. I'm not surprised he wrote this. Jonah's voice cracked. Mom, we weren't forcing you. We just thought that I was embarrassing? I asked quietly. Old. In the way. His face dropped. The room shifted. People looked at him, not me. Shame washed over him like a slow tide. Jonah Mercer, the mayor said gently, I heard your words that day in the hallway, and I watched your mother shrink into herself because of them. A soft murmur spread through the room. Nora, Attorney Keller, even the receptionist peeking in. It wasn't cruelty. It was truth catching up. Paige's voice trembled. We didn't mean to hurt anyone. Intent, Attorney Keller replied, doesn't undo impact. Have you ever spoken your truth calmly, only to be blamed for the storm that follows? If that feeling is familiar, write your age in the comments so I know how many of us have lived this. I lifted the letter again. Charles trusted me. This home, our memories, were never bargaining chips, and you wanted to sign it all away, behind my back. Jonah opened his mouth, but no excuses came. Only a long shaking breath. Attorney Keller placed the final document on the table. Given the clause, any attempt to coerce or pressure Mrs. Whitford invalidates your claim. Legally, the property remains entirely in her name. Paige's cheeks flushed bright red. Jonah sank back into his chair as if the truth had suddenly become too heavy to carry. Just like that, he whispered. Just like that, Keller said. The mayor gave a small nod of respect toward me. Rosa, the community needs you. Your work, your wisdom. That's why I came to your door personally. Not for your house, for you. A single tear slipped down my cheek, landing on the old letter. Justice had come, but it tasted bittersweet. The room stayed quiet for a long time. Only the soft sound of Jonah rubbing his forehead, Paige breathing shakily, papers settling on the table. Sometimes justice takes time, but it always arrives. If you believe that, comment true. Finally, Jonah stood, not with pride, but with a man seeing himself clearly for the first time. Mom, I didn't realize what I was doing. I thought I was helping, but His voice broke. I'm sorry. I looked at him, really looked. My son, the boy I raised, the man who wounded me, and in that moment, I wondered if apology could ever sew back the fabric of trust. As they walked out, Paige wiping tears, Jonah avoiding everyone's eyes, The mayor placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing today, Rosa. Did I? Or did I just lose the last piece of my family to the truth?" Nora whispered, "You're not alone, Rosa. But that didn't make it hurt any less, did it?" No, it didn't. I folded the letter, holding it to my chest as the office emptied, and the low piano hum in my mind grew softer. Justice had been served, but as I sat there staring at the empty chairs where my son once sat, one question echoed through me. Was victory worth the price of losing him? It's been 15 quiet months since that day in Attorney Keller's office. Seasons passed like soft breaths over my old house, our house, where I still wake each morning to the slow creak of the wooden floor and the sunlight that spills across the kitchen, just the way Charles loved it. I've rearranged a few things, not out of necessity, but out of healing. The dining table now sits closer to the window so I can watch the sparrows hop along the fence. My garden has grown wider. Tomatoes, basil, and marigolds line the walkway in gentle bursts of color, and the porch swing. Well, I finally fixed the chain so it doesn't squeak anymore. Healing doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like brewing tea in a favorite chipped mug, or folding laundry while the radio hums softly. Sometimes it looks like choosing peace, even on days when memories press heavy on the chest. I keep Charles's letter in a small wooden box by my bedside. The edges are softer now from being opened so often. When I feel doubt creeping in, I read the final line he wrote. "Rosa, your strength will outlive every storm." He knew me better than anyone ever has. The betrayal from Jonah and Paige once felt like a bruise I could never stop noticing. Now, the ache has dulled, not forgotten, but transformed, like an old scar that no longer stings, but reminds you of where you've been. Some evenings, I sit at the kitchen table with Nora Bennett. We share peach pie or warm apple crumble, and she teases me about how the mayor still checks on me more often than necessary. "He respects you," she says, stirring her tea. "You're like the backbone of this town." I smile, because for the first time in a long time, I believe her. Life has a way of softening around the edges once you stop fighting the hurt and start learning from it. And I've learned, oh, I've learned. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It isn't pretending you weren't wounded. Forgiveness is choosing not to let someone else's choices poison your own heart. Sometimes, standing alone is not punishment. It's a rebirth. If you've ever healed after heartbreak, like this video, so I know I'm not alone. I've grown stronger in ways I never expected. I volunteer more at the community center now. Mayor Lucas Grant often asks me to speak to the younger folks about history, resilience, and the strange ways life turns us into warriors without ever raising our voices. He still introduces me as the woman whose wisdom built half this town. And every time, I hear Charles laughing softly somewhere in my memory, proud of me. One chilly afternoon last November, Jonah showed up at my door. Not with papers, not with demands, just with flowers, store-bought daisies, slightly wilted, but held with shaking hands. I didn't let him inside right away. Healing doesn't erase boundaries, but I listened. He said he'd joined a support group, said he'd realized how much pride had cost him, said he missed me. Paige stayed in the car. She couldn't bring herself to look me in the eyes yet. That's all right. Healing doesn't have a timeline. I told Jonah I needed time. I wasn't cruel, just honest. And honesty, I've learned, is its own form of love. Some people ask me if I'll ever fully reconcile. I don't know. But what I do know is this: I no longer live waiting for someone else's apology. Peace came the day I chose myself. Comment strong if you've ever had to stand alone and rebuild. These days, my joy comes in small, quiet doses: the soft thump of laundry in the dryer, the vanilla scent from the candle Nora brings every Sunday, the humming sound of children playing outside the community center, the porch swing moving gently under my weight as the sky melts into evening blues. This life, it's not perfect, but it's mine, and I've learned how to love it again. Last week, the mayor invited me to a town luncheon honoring community elders. When he said my name into the microphone, Rosa Jean Whitford, the room stood and clapped. I didn't cry, but my hands did tremble a little. Not from age, from gratitude, from knowing that even after loss, you can still be seen. Nora nudged me afterward. See? You're not alone. You never were. And as I walked home that evening, feeling the cold breeze brush against my cheeks, I understood something. True inheritance isn't a house. It isn't money. It's the love we leave behind and the strength we carry forward. Grandmas deserve respect and love. Share this so everyone remembers that. Tonight, I sit on my porch with a warm blanket over my legs, watching the sun sink low. The world feels gentler now, my heart too. Yet sometimes, as the wind rustles through the oak tree in the yard, a quiet thought slips in, soft, wondering, hopeful. Sometimes, even after betrayal, love still finds its way back home.